Have you noticed that this is a really crazy and confusing time for a lot of people at the moment? There's actually one group of people that it's not so confusing for, and that is Christians. So, if you've noticed that things are getting really weird and strange and people are doing really weird stuff, and the media is full of these really strange stories, then it can help to understand that a lot of these things fall perfectly into the patterns that one would expect if the Christian story is 100% true. So I've spoken to quite a few people who are really irritated and angry and upset with this woke thing happening at the moment. They don't get it why we have to have all this stuff about sex and gender and race and all this stuff shoved down our throats all the time. Why can't we just enjoy the sports at the Olympic Games and not have to have like all this political kind of weird sex party stuff on the screens and have to talk about it all the time? And so what these people don't really get, I think, is that there is fundamental patterns in reality. And a lot of our society, in the West especially, has been based on some foundational ideas that come to us from the Christian faith, from Christianity, from Christ's life and death, and from Pentecost, and things that were set in motion from that time. And slowly but surely, that foundation has been distorted or has been being twisted over the last, over 1,000 years, really. But now we're starting to see a major collapse and falling away of some of these pillars of that foundation. Like in the last 20, 30 years, it's crazy and it's accelerating really fast. Just the last 3-5 years, even the things that have been happening has been going really, really fast. And so what we're finding is that as you remove Christianity from as the foundational support of our society, then people don't just stop believing. Instead, in fact, they start believing in all kinds of really, really weird stuff. Religion doesn't go away. It just takes on new forms. And so I actually just saw a picture from that opening scene of the Paris Olympic Games, and the Hunger Games, the people that were in the Capitol kind of dressed up in all this really weird, strange, colorful clothing with weird makeup on and stuff like that. Really looking like, some kind of like trance drag queens kind of thing at some kind of weird, strange, superficial party, all very disconnected and very superficial in many ways. And it was amazing how similar these two, things look like. It's like, the worst of the dystopian movies that we're creating over the last 5-10 years. Those are the ones that we're moving towards. Like it started The Matrix was the first big one, I guess, where it really, had this idea of like the machines living off the human beings, and more we're just like plugged into these machines and living from them, and they were feeding them with our attention. Maybe not to the literal extent, but in a very real way, we're extremely living out this kind of like virtual reality machine life in so many ways. And so what we're seeing is really, weird and strange forms of religions coming back, which in many ways resemble exactly the old forms of the religions as well. Sometimes more explicitly, sometimes using new technology in strange and different ways. I think a really good example to take as well is the examples of especially Holland and I think Ireland as well, who are really worried about climate change. And so what they want to do now is they seriously are looking at like killing off thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of cows and other animals to be able to, in their Mother Earth worshipping climate religion. So they believe, that by sacrificing the lives of these animals, then they're going to be able to change the weather. It's so funny and comical that they actually, are just living out this exact same pattern in worshipping Mother Earth, which is the old pattern as well that they're going into. So this is all kind of like really familiar for our ancient ancestors, of course. It was a time of a lot of chaos and death, destruction, slavery, rape. All of these things were much more normal back then. And it was really the rule of not just power, but force that kind of ruled the day in those societies. And the Roman Empire was absolutely clear. But of course, also in the kind of pagan societies that we often glorify today, or these like Aboriginal or tribal life of like the Rousseauian paradise, was really just the level of murder happening in these societies, and warring tribes and people just slaughtering each other was incredibly high. Nowhere close to if you think like living in South Africa or in Detroit or whatever is bad because people kill each other occasionally there. That's not good, of course, at all. But I promise you, it can get far, far worse. And so we have today in our academic elite circles this obsession with power for the sake of power, really, and everything is about power, and there's no universal good, there's no absolutes, there's no, everything is just subjective, there's no relative, everything is just subjective and relative to each other, there's no absolute truth. And so we're really going back to that exact same way of being at the moment, and it's pretty scary. So what we're seeing now is a lot of people getting a lot more interested in Christianity. And in the Orthodox Church where I attend, then we have just guys like showing up off the street who found Orthodoxy on TikTok or something like that. And they're curious and they want to know more. And what they found is someone who actually dares to speak the truth, and where the story makes sense. Like the things that they're hearing, all of the ideas, like everything just kind of falls into place for them. And that's why they want to hear more. And so what we're going to see at the same time, things are getting clearer. And so some people are going to go down this one path, but a lot of people are going to realize like there's actually so much in Christianity that just makes so much sense and helps us to understand. And so we need to go back to the roots of things. We need to go back to the ancient past. And it's not also for a lot of these people, it's not enough to just look at like the last 100 years, or some church that got founded by some charismatic guy in California in the 70s or something like that, right? They're only going much, much further back. Martin Luther was just 500 years ago, but the roots of these things are 2,000 years ago. And so that's what it is we need to return to and look at what's happened since then. And I'm actually going to be publishing a podcast just tomorrow about an interview with a guy called Father John Strickland, who's written a 4-volume work on the history of Christendom over the last 2,000 years. And it's a fascinating read, really, really valuable, and something I can really highly recommend that people dig into to get a better understanding. Our headline for it is going to be Why Men Must Master History. So yeah, hope you found this enjoyable. Thanks for listening. And please, if you enjoyed or found it valuable, then leave a like and add a comment. All of this stuff really helps us with the algorithm, even if it's just to say hi or how you doing, anything like that. So thanks a lot, and looking forward to hearing from you.